Hello, everybody. Welcome to another session. Hi, Fabian.
Hi, Kishin. Nice to see you.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna tackle. It's a quite a big topic, but we'll just make a little dent into it. So I'm talking about today um, a general past trauma. It could be childhood trauma. It could be intergenerational trauma. And in our philosophy of thinking, it could even be past life trauma. So um, what happened in the past we can't control, right? And we know that. Things that happen to us as a child is so very important. And things that happen in our country, in humanity history, is also important because it say our great grandmother is my generation, my grandmother has been through wars, right? They've been through very hardship, so they would be going through trauma. And when they're going through trauma and they have children, their fear, their anxiety, their psychological wounds is change. It changed their DNA, but it also changes the children's DNA. So the subsequent generation, so like my mother generation, would feel their trauma, but they wouldn't know what's going on, right? So they would feel waves of depression. They would feel restlessness. They would feel some uncomfortableness, right? Some distress, but they wouldn't know. It's quite unconscious, and so that would pass on to my generation, right? So that is what we call intergenerational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you think you are healed and you work through your problems and you process your trauma and you've done the work and you live peacefully lifestyle, but you would get waves also, waves occasionally out of the blue, and you just go into spiral of low and quite depressive mood, right? So that is just to understand, right? To understand our past is important, but the work that we do is always the present moment. What we choose to do now, right? How are we going to heal and process those unconscious energy that surface up to us, right? So back to our practice, which is mindfulness. Bring our awareness back to the present, especially back to our body, and just scan, do the body sweep or body scan. And what we'll notice is our body will tense up. It will tense up. Different people tense up differently. Some clench their teeth, some tighten their fists, some tighten their tummy, some tighten up the shoulder. So it's different. So you would know your own body, what it would do. And when you feel tension, then then our next practice is to go and scan our mind. What is in our thoughts? What are we thinking at that moment? And so we just release, right? So when this energy unconsciously come up, our tendency is to add thoughts into it. Our tendency is to label it. Our tendency is to define it and try to understand it. But in doing that, we make it worse. We identify, we grab on, and we make it into something that it is not, when it can be just realizing that something is here at this moment, and we can relax and let it come and let it pass. Right? So, but also be careful of our tendency of going to negativity, because this energy is quite dense. And dense energy tend to make us go into negativity, like self-critiques, self-blaming, or fault-finding, all of that. So be careful of adding thoughts to what is just, can be just a simple present moment experience, right? The energy is just energy, right? It doesn't need to be good or bad, negative or positive. We just need to realize that our mind does that. Our mind would want to label it. Our mind would want to say, this is negative, this is good, this is bad, this is low, this is high, this is what. Yeah. So that is how we use wisdom and self-awareness. Self-awareness is wisdom, and to know what to do. So we use wisdom to, how to call it? You can say dilute karma. So the karma came up as energy, subconscious energy, right? That's just one way of it resurface. And we use this wisdom to dilute it, meaning we can just let it come, pass, and that's it. But if we don't have wisdom, what do? We add thoughts, we make two stories, we suffer. Not only do we suffer, but we carry it forward into many days, many weeks, many months. So, so there's the story of the lump of salt, right? So the lump of salt, imagine this lump of salt is our past deeds, right? It's just, it's done. We can't control it. But when this lump of salt arises and it's being added into this cup of water and we try to drink it, it's really uncomfortable, right? Quite painful. That's equivalent to our karma arise, and we don't know when it's going to arise, when the condition is right. And the cup of water is our understanding. It's our weak mindfulness or no mindfulness at all. It's our unconsciousness, right? So that's the equivalent of the lump of salt in a little glass of water. But if this lump of salt is dissolved in this pond of water or this river water, then that's another story, right? It's hardly tastable at all. So that's equivalent of karma rise, this energy arise in this present moment. And we use wisdom, and we use our training, our what we've learned, our mindfulness, our self-compassion, right? All those is the river. So when the energy come up and you know what to do, it passes. So it hardly touches you at all. It's like equivalent of drinking that lump of salt in a river of water.
Yeah, you barely feel it. You barely
Yeah,
taste the salt.
that's right. Yeah. Do you have any question?
Yeah, I was just listening and following what you say, and I got quite absorbed in what you say, and I totally basically agree. So, I mean, we've been sort of scratching onto different topics like the intergenerational trauma. We talked about basically how we sort of break things which come up, and so what it actually does and what it might be. So yeah, I totally agree. Like stuff we experience in childhood or we experience from our parents or great like grandparents. And it's, you know, when you're a child, you don't really know it. And if you grow up and you don't do the mind schooling and awareness, and then you think you are it, and you never know that it actually comes from somewhere else, and also from past lives, as we're Buddhists and believe in past life. But it can also occur in sort of an accident you once had, or in a heartbreak, right? So you carry all that stuff coming up, and but you're right, like you cannot control the past, but like these feelings, they basically are a result which you feel in the present moment. So you basically feel the past in that present, it comes in the present moment, and then you decide how to proceed further, right? So how you gonna determine the future, what you're gonna make out of that. So there's the saying, you know, if life gives you a lemon, you make lemonade, right? Simple as that. But yeah,
Mm.
it's pretty much what you say, and um, yeah, it's quite interesting also what you explained about the happenings in the human history, right? So there's a certain, like for me coming from Germany, is like basically we had more or less caused the First and Second World War. So
Mm.
not we as a like we didn't do that, right? But the great grandparents and whatever which have born in that time, they experienced that all, and that goes into the genes, you said, right? Like it goes into, yeah, the subconscious, and you transport that onto your, you know, child, and then that goes on and passes on. And then that's very interesting, right? Because yeah, it's something, sometimes stuff comes up and you don't know why, right? You could have a very nice day, sun is shining, just everything is sweet, and you know, it's like, and then all of a sudden, sort of, say the karma is ripe, and then there comes a massive wave of say a down, if we want to label it like that, or just whatever mood or energy, actually dense energy attacking you. And then it's very nice what you say. So there's not really a question, but I totally um, understand what you say, like thinking, okay, how can I overcome this? Well, most of the time we're adding thoughts, and then we identify with that. And that's really how I experienced, you know, if stuff comes up, and for every human it does, and then we try to think our way through, we try to understand where it's coming from, we sort of go into that, and then we actually identify with it, and we burden up, where like the sort of luggage comes up, and we're sort of in a dark place, and we don't know where how we can come out. So spiraling down, coming in waves, and yeah, the only way is what you say, the mindfulness, right? So starting with the mindfulness of the body, sweeping, see what's tensed up, and then we realize, oh, there was something, right? That there is something which actually caused that. And then we go into the mind and see what it is, or into the heart and see, okay, where do we feel it detected? And then we can let it go instead of feeling it, and identifying with it, and yeah, so, and going to negativity and labeling. Yeah.
So when things happen to us, say suffering or pain, it's an opportunity. It's like a little honey. Uh, if we have the right mindset and attitude, then we can learn from that, because we tend to learn more when we suffer and in pain than we learn when we are happy. Because when we're happy, we just enjoy it and we live it. But when things didn't go our way, or our attachment or desires is not being met, or or unconscious karma come up, then it's an opportunity to learn. And what do we learn? We learn about it's an opportunity to practice self-awareness, right? It's an opportunity to hone in and strengthen our mindfulness, strengthen our self-compassion, strengthen kindness, because we need the ability to acknowledge that it is happening, that we are in this mood or this mindset, identify, just acknowledge it and accept it, and then just let it go, right? The ability to let go is forgive, and we need to, forgive the past, forgive our parents, forgive our histories, because if we we don't, then yeah, we will just resist, right? We will resist. We will go into fabrication, and that is how suffering starts.
Yeah, actually, just wanted to just bring something in. Actually, in order to forgive, sometimes it can be a tool, at least from my understanding, that you go and have compassion, right? If you have an issue and holding a grudge for your parents and how they treat you, and you know how they dealt with you in raising you when you were a child, and then you think, oh, they made me this, they made me that, and they are so bad, right? So, and then actually having compassion to, in what time did they grow up, right? So, and also thinking or might feeling into this time, how did they get raised? As we just said, right? It's gonna be passed on. So if you, for instance, as a child got beaten up by your parents somehow, a really bad case, and just bringing that example up, and it's likely to be that your parents have been beaten up by their parents, and because that was the time, and that was the time spirit, and that's how they dealt with children, and with problems. And then yeah, so you think, oh, then you can forgive all of a sudden way easier, because you think, oh, they have suffered too. Because like, if you don't speak your mind and understand that, you think your parents wanted, they brought you evil, they did that on purpose, and then they just wanted you to hurt you. But that's not the case. They've been actually victim to their, and we made a video about the puppet master. So if you guys just jump in here, you might see that video too. So they've been a victim to the or they dance to the tunes of the puppet master. So compassion is another tool which makes forgiveness possible.
Okay, I just want to add to that. Shift in perception is very important, right? Our ability to to recognize how we perceive things is not working, and to shift that and to see reality in a different perspective. So in this case, say somebody who have traumatic childhood and have such a strong resentment to their parents, the way to shift perception is to realize that the person that they are now is not that little child that was hurt. And the people that hurt that child is not the same people that is now, right?
Yes, that's true.
So because of the transient and impermanent nature of reality, once we understood this, then we realized that nothing is solid. So how can a person be the exact person now in the past? So
Yes, yes.
so if we shift our, yeah, I saw that little light bulb somewhere in your head, like
Yeah, I mean, it just explains the non-self aspect too, right? You're covering right there impermanence, but in fact is why we're holding a grudge to people is actually that we believe that there's a self behind that, right? So,
Mm.
but how can there be a fixed, solid core of things or substance or uh, entity or whatever you want to call it, self, and if that's changing all the time? So how, it's just programming, conditioning the next, all that. So yeah, that's been the light bulb.
Yeah. So I found that shifting perception in this particular example is quite effective for people to forgive the past, forgive their parents, and also forgive themselves, um, to carry this hurt of these little people all this time, all these years, right? So anytime you have that light bulbs and you drop the burden of your past, is a massive relief. You don't have to carry all the woundings of the history of humanity, of all the years in your past. You don't have to carry them, right? Because today you are new. Today you're different, right? You might not, we might not be completely different, but we are different in the sense that, like a big tree, little seed, give little seed, and little seed grow to a tree. So our past and our present is like that. It's like the big tree. In some sense, there is the same genetics, the same imprints, the same personality that is maintained through the years. But definitely, we are not the same. So understand that, and then we can shift our perception, and it's easier to let the past go.
Yeah, it's I just wanted to add that sometimes if we're angry with a person and then we sort of we live, actually we dwell in that anger, so every time we think about that person or we see that person, or whatever we hear about that person, so that anger comes up, and then we have this ill will sort of radiating towards that person. And so what actually we think is that it actually uh, is it brings us something good, like to hold up this anger, so we think it's justified, and we think Yeah, so we basically actually want to hurt that, or we, yeah, hurt that person in a way. But the thing is that we are holding this hot coal is basically what the Buddha gave an example for, right? So if you're yelling at a person, if you're insulting a person in whatever, it's like throwing a hot coal at a person. So, but that, who's, so he, Buddha says, like, who's be burned first, right? Of course, the person who picks up that coal, and this hot coal we carry all the time in our heart, and we think it's benefiting us for some reason, or it's justified, or it's good to hold up that. But in the truth is that it actually damages us. It distorts our perception. The present moment is always filtered with that emotion, and yeah, we are new, so I totally agree. So with the tree, it's like, yeah, it might be that this big tree has grown from, and if that small little tree wouldn't be there, of course the big tree wouldn't be there. So yes, the big tree resulted from that small one, but it's definitely not the same in size, in weight, in functionality, in efficiency, in whatever. It Yeah, also it has fruits, right? The big tree might have fruits where the small one didn't have. So it's actually totally different tree. Yeah, it's very interesting to think about it this way.
And the beauty of seeing that you are new and different every day is that um, we that's the benefit of mindfulness. As our mindfulness is strong and we're able to stay more and more in the present, we become more uh, we love simplicity, we're more content, um, we have the sense of wonder like an innocent child, because everything is new, everything is even though you already read the book, you read it again and it's still new, still fresh, even though you already watched the movie like once, twice, and you watch it again and it's still, you still gain pleasure from it. So that's another very wonderful way of living, to see yourself as just today, right?
Mhm.
If you're able to do that, that's so wonderful. You go to work and you see this person who you have conflict from yesterday, and you treat them with no bias perception from yesterday. That's like so wonderful, and the person would react to that. Um,
Yeah, totally. It's like the chain of goodness will then rise. Like if you're able to let go, like it basically transforms the whole world. Is like if you can do that really day by day to sort of restart the system, and then and you get better at it and more present and more mindful, and you're able to cut through your moods and downs and whatever emotions coming up, then it's such a like nice world. And I think you get even better, like that you can do it every half a day, you sort of restart, and then you get better like every hour, and then you get so good that you can do it at every moment. It's just news. And like everything you watch, like also like sky, like clouds passing by, or like the sparkling zodiac stars, and not labeling them, not just looking at them, and then that gives you such a joy, because there's no it doesn't matter like if you what your parents or things or objects or situations or even yourself. I think it's just a great opportunity to change your life by changing the perception. Yeah.
mm. um, so we come back to being the little ripple, right? So changing the world start with changing ourselves. And when we do that, we become this, we have this little ripple effects. And the more we embody compassion, embody wisdom, embody stillness, silence, then we are more of a ripple, right? So the moment we on this path, you know, and learning self-awareness, learning meditation, purify ourselves, we are already a little ripple, like a little pebble thrown into the pond. But as our practice gain momentum and we become stronger in our qualities, in our heart and in our mind, then we're not a pebble anymore. You know, we become a big stone. And so, like, enlightened person, imagine like they walk around with this emptiness, right? Weaving through the world, right? They're not even the stone. There's this black hole. this this vortex, you know. So it's like, so imagine the ripple that causes. So yeah. So every effort counts, right? Every tiny drops of effort that we put in always count. It's never wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yes,
So
yes.
on that note, we're going to leave it for today because it's ending our session just a few minutes ago. And it's always nice to talk about this, you know. I found so much passion and joy in sharing with other people,
Yes,
so that they be benefit.
yeah, I mean, it would be so fantastic if like more and more people in our surrounding would start to think this way and start to change. And I always love to just imagine what the world could be like if you know, everyone would do that. So it's totally a
You,
transformative.
yeah, you be the ripple, whether they gonna set the ripple or not, it doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah.
So we just focus on being that vortex or that big stone that would cause the ripples.
Yes, well said. Okay. Yeah, it was beautiful talking to you. I found this is a very important topic, and yeah, it was very light bulbing.
Excellent. Okay.
All right. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and see you.